there. Good morning. This is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and I'm happy to be here with you on February 22nd, 2023. This is the week of Tapestry Fantasies and Futures reveals. So that's kind of been the big topic on my mind this week as I reveal the design diaries for this new expansion, which, yes, does come in a fully recyclable envelope. So all the components in this expansion are flat. They're all cards and mats, and so we were able to pack them in an envelope that you can easily just recycle. And we've even made it so that if this is the only thing that you pre-order from us or that you order from a retailer, an online retailer, they can put a label directly on the envelope. So they can put the label right here and ship it to you, and you can take the stuff out and then recycle it. And we've tried to make that a little eco-friendly given the components for this specific expansion. It doesn't work for every expansion, I don't think. Today I actually revealed the folded space insert, which I should have had on hand here. It's in my copy of Tapestry. But yeah, we partnered with Folded Space to create a custom insert that fits all Tapestry stuff in the original Tapestry box. So no big boxes needed for Tapestry. The big box you already have if you have Tapestry. And you can put everything that you have from Tapestry, all three expansions and the core game, in the new Folded Space insert. And you can get that from us next Wednesday, March 1st, either directly from us or from Folded Space. And we'll obviously have the expansion too, so you can get the expansion plus that insert if you really want it. See a lot of friendly faces this morning. Thank you everyone for popping in to say hi. It's good to see you. Steven says that he's excited for the sci-fi element of the new expansion. Yeah, fantasies and futures. There's a big sci-fi and fantasy. In fact, that is that's the whole point of the expansion, which is really cool. I love seeing the Tapestry cards in particular. I think are just incredible. How many 38 different Tapestry cards going through different kind of sci-fi and speculative and fictional tropes that we encounter in fiction. Today I talked about the new tech cards. There's some new tech cards here in the expansion. 12 new tech cards. And I've already talked about the civilizations. So we have 10 new civilizations in the new Tapestry expansion. And tomorrow I'll talk about the new capital cities and the Automa Solo mode. We will post about that. And then on Friday I'll talk about the comprehensive rulebook, which is included in the expansion as well. Yeah. So a lot of stuff in this tiny expansion, and because of the way that we've packaged it in here, I think we're able to offer it at a very affordable price. We haven't announced the price yet. You'll see that next Wednesday, and the price will depend a little bit on whether or not you are a Stonemaier champion. If you're a champion, you'll get a 20% discount. But I think it's a very reasonable price for an expansion with a lot of stuff in it. Chris says he's joining us from Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, where we're in a snowstorm warning with several inches of snow expected. I've heard, I just saw that on the news today, that or parts of the country of the U.S. are getting a lot of snow and ice this weekend. In St. Louis, I think we're just getting cold. So I don't think we're getting much of that in St. Louis. Carol says she's down near Milwaukee waiting for it to hit. I see some people here too who submitted to the Wingspan Fan Art Challenge. We had over 300 submissions to the Fan Art Challenge. And really my goal is to include as many as possible. I'm really trying not to judge the submissions based on merit. And if you're watching this and learning about this for the first time, submissions are closed right now. We had them open for a full month. They are closed right now. We might do it again in the future for the next 3 expansions after we've released the final 3 expansions. But it's really incredible what the wide variety of art that was submitted. And certain artists have been very flexible to submit another illustration when there was a duplicate, because whenever there are duplicates, that's when I do have to choose one over another. So I really appreciate all the time and talent that people put into this challenge. Let's see. Nathan says that he had a gaming trip to visit his sister over the long weekend, played and taught Wingspan and Red Rising multiple times. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing those games, Nathan. Sorry, Facebook scrolled up as it often does. Malcolm Chris says, can you tell us the names of the new civilizations? I'm missing only one. So the new civilizations are the Wee Folk. I'll just hold them up. You can show them. The Fey Folk, the Merfolk, the Artificers, the Psionics, the Werefolk, the Elder Ones, the Genies, the Celestials, and the Illuminati. I actually had the great pleasure yesterday of recording a little video for this Sunday. It'll come out this Sunday of favorite mechanisms and favorite civs and tapestry cards and tech cards and capital cities with the two designers, Mike and Chris. And so we have, I don't often do videos like that, but they were able to get together with me and we had a nice chat yesterday. And you'll get to watch that video on Sunday if you're interested in hearing their kind of stories behind the game, some of which are found in the design diaries that I'm posting this week, but they go into some other stories in the video. Julie says, was there a wide range of media used in the creation of the art that folks submitted? And yeah, there was a huge wide range. The art ranged from kind of maybe, I don't want to say simple, but pencil drawings, just black and white pencil drawings, to digital art, to there's a knitted art, there's an illustration that someone did, there's a face, like a bird face paint. There are wood carvings. There was some art on glass, and I'm definitely missing a half a dozen different mediums here, or medias. It was just incredible the range that people submitted. So we're going to see a nice wide variety, and honestly a wide variety of talent too. Artists of different talent levels submitted their art, and I think that's great. That's the kind of the point of this art pack. People get to showcase their own skills where they are right now, and hopefully it'll be inspirational for people to continue to pursue different mediums and different art challenges in their own life. So yeah, I was just blown away by the variety of the submissions. Corey from Blue Falcon Board Gaming says he had a game idea hit him while driving on Saturday, and just a few hours later he had a rough prototype for playtesting. That is a fast turnaround, Corey. I'm impressed. Any other channels or resources you recommend for making nice-looking do-it-yourself prototypes? I mean, you know that on our website, I have some recommendations there. If you go to how to design a tabletop game, there's a section on prototyping there. And that's probably the best place to go, Corey, off the top of my head. If you're looking to, if you're just a few days into the prototype at this point, I would just use the resources that you have on hand. Parts and pieces from other games. If you have a program like InDesign on your computer, you can use InDesign on your computer. I usually just use that and I print out prototypes on my printers and I cut and paste them and I assemble them that way. I think that's how I prototype to this day. So I use my computer a little bit and I print and I cut and assemble. I think that's the way to go. At a certain point, I guess if you really want to maybe pitch it to a publisher and have a really nice prototype to submit, you can use the Game Crafter, or you can use Print and Play Productions to print a fairly nice quality one. But this early in the design process, I would highly recommend not going that route. I would just print it at home. Molly's joining us today. They say, I have a few friends who entered the art contest and they had so much fun. That's great to hear. That's really great to hear. My friend Thomas made a really neat paper craft owl. I don't know if I've seen that one yet. I've gone through a number of the submissions, but I mostly focused on kind of the duplicate entries so far, but that sounds incredible. I want to see this paper craft owl. Nathan says, is the Merfolk a nod to your fan faction for Terra Mystica? That was my first thought when I saw the Civ announcement. You know, I didn't pick any of the civilizations. They all came from Mike and Chris, so I don't think that is a nod to my Terra Mystica fan faction. No, but it's a good connection to make. I can definitely see that. Melissa says that she's so excited for the new Civ. Some of her favorite themes. Hard to type as a cat is on the keyboard right now. Tony says his group played Viticulture World last night for the first time. I think I enjoy the co-op version of the game even more than the standard version. That's a great first response, Tony. It's a challenging expansion. There's some pick up, put down actions on the board that made me wonder if you were considering a rubber playmat for it. As you probably know, I like rubber playmats when you're picking up cards specifically from the board. There is a little bit of that, but mostly what you're putting on the board are tiles. So currently, I wouldn't say that we're considering a rubber playmat for Viticulture World, which does come with its own new board for Viticulture. Luke says, I just got on. Are you guys going to have an art exhibition in the future? So Luke, the Wingspan Art Challenge was to create a pack of bird cards, birds that are already in Wingspan, that have the fan art instead of the art from Anna and Natalia. So it's not an expedition. I guess it is kind of an expedition through a pack of cards, but not a traditional art exhibition as you might think of it. Yeah. Chad and Carol have some tips for Corey, who's working on a prototype right now. Carol mentioned that old legacy game pieces are great for prototyping. Totally agree with that. And Chad says buying $1 games at Goodwill is also a great place to find game boards and tokens. I totally agree with that too. So yeah, Tapestry. I can answer other questions about the Tapestry expansion. There's some content. I've 3 design diary posts so far. I have 2 more to go. Then we're going to start seeing third-party creators share what the expansion is on Saturday with their reviews and opinions starting on Monday, and then the pre-order itself for Tapestry Fantasies and Futures is on March 1st. So that's next Wednesday. 1 week from now is when we'll do pre-order is not the right term for it here. We have it in stock now, along with the new folded space insert. So it is a launch. We're calling it a launch, and that means that if you order it next Wednesday or in the days that follow, it should be shipped within a few weeks at most. We'll probably hopefully we'll get an influx of orders, and so it'll take a few days for our fulfillment centers to ship them out, but they should be shipped out in a very timely manner. That is opposed to Expeditions, which is just an ongoing rolling pre-order. As we have now, we're entering production, we're in production, but the game production is not complete. And so if you want to reserve a copy and kind of guarantee that you'll get a copy, I would recommend doing so as soon as possible. However, we are making hopefully what we hope is more than enough copies of the standard edition and the Ironclad edition, which has metal mechs, to last through the actual launch of the product when we actually have it in stock. So that is what we're trying to do, but it is a guessing game at that point. If you really want to just guarantee that you get a copy, I would recommend ordering earlier. Let's see. Jonathan says that he's excited to see that Tuscany was added as a DLC for the Viticulture app on Steam and iOS. I don't actually know. Is it on iOS, Jonathan? I know it's on Steam. Maybe it's on iOS. I thought it was maybe just on Steam so far. But either way, the digitized full AI version of Viticulture now has Tuscany. People have asked for that for a long time. And it took a long time, but I'm glad that it's finally here. And this week, it's on sale for 25% off. So if you go to at least Steam, maybe iOS, check out iOS, but at least Steam, you can get Tuscany now for Viticulture and play Tuscany on iOS. I'm sorry, on Steam. Kevin says, have you seen Ant-Man 3 yet? Any other movie, TV, or books that are catching my fancy recently? I have not seen Ant-Man 3 yet. I want to, but I haven't seen it quite yet. It's been a busy couple weeks, and we have a busy couple weeks coming up now. But I hope to see it. We're watching The Last of Us right now as our nighttime TV and our daytime shows. We're bumping around between a few different shows. We just finished watching the 6th episode of Night Court, just a kind of a light half-hour comedy that we watch at lunch. I am reading a book from Adrian Tchaikovsky called, what is the name of this book? It's the latest book in a series about a far future sci-fi series where worlds have been not populated, but humankind attempts to populate new planets, like terraform and populate them with humanity, but some things go askew and other types of creatures become sentient creatures instead. So forget the name of the series. It's from Adrian Tchaikovsky. Children of Time, Children of Earth, I think are a couple of books in the series, but I'm reading whatever the latest book is. I'm enjoying that. And we watched a couple movies this past weekend. One was a little bit of a miss for me, so I won't mention that one, but the one that I thought was better than expected was called The Rise of the Minions. It was kind of an origin story for Gru from Despicable Me, I think was when he originally appeared. And it was actually pretty good. I tried to watch the straight up Minions movie a few years ago, and I could not make sense of it at all. That didn't work for me. But this movie combines Gru with the Minions a little bit, and I thought it was pretty entertaining. More than I thought. I liked it more than I thought. Ryan says, I just wanted to thank you for listening to the suggestions for the Stonemaier scoring app, the free app that we have for calculating and saving your scores for Stonemaier games. It's called Stonemaier Scores. It's a free app. And implementing them. Ryan says he's played Wingspan a few times since the update, and I'm typically the scorekeeper. It is much simpler now. That's great to hear. The end of round goals, when there are ties, and the nectar scoring changes have made things much more streamlined. I'm glad to hear that, Ryan, and yeah, thank you for that suggestion, or any of the suggestions that anyone gave to us for the app. Full credit to Paul, really, the developer, for implementing them, but for anyone who was sending him that feedback or sending it to me and I relayed to Paul, I really appreciate that. We want to make the app something that you will actively use, and that you can save your scores in it and kind of look back and look at your high scores over time. I know there are other apps that do that. The difference in this app other than it being free, is that it also can calculate your score. It has built-in calculators for most of our games at this point, maybe even all of them. Chad says, without spoilers, can you say how things are progressing with Andrew Bosley and the Smoking Bones game that Andrew hinted at a while ago? That would be kind of a spoiler if I updated the progress, but I can say that I continue to be excited about working with Andrew Bosley in a world of his own creation. Andrew's also the artist of Tapestry and Fantasies and Futures, and his art really brings this game to life on the Tapestry cards and the Civ mats in particular, and the tech cards. And the capital cities, his art is all over the place. Marlene says, how did you come up with a name for Smitten? She says, my husband and I like to pick it up as a quick game break on our work days. I'm glad you're enjoying Smitten, Marlene. It was actually the suggestion of one of our shareholders who thought it was a nice way to combine a word that sounded like kitten, just because I guess it's kind of cute. And actually, there's another reason. That's the overall reason. SM is Stonemaier Games, so you can kind of see SM on some of our shirts. They say kind of SM is the acronym, and so Smitten starts with the letters S and M, and the word 10 is in the word TEN, and that's important actually for the shirt that I'm wearing here because I made Smitten as a game to give away as part of our 10th anniversary celebration back in September, October, and so. It just this word Smitten happens to sound like kitten, and it has the letters SM, and it has the letters or the word 10 in it. A shareholder thought of all those things and put it together for that one word. Aramis says, hello from San Francisco. I played Rise of Fenris for the first time during Christmas break with my husband, and wow, what an amazing and delightful campaign for Scythe. The story, surprises, and new modules are top-notch. Thank you, and Ryan. Ryan was my co-designer for The Rise of Fenris, for bringing us such a wonderful game. Looking forward to buying Expeditions and Tapestry Fantasies and Futures. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm glad you had a good time playing The Rise of Fenris. That was definitely, any campaign game for any designer is a labor of love. It's a lot of work and time goes into it. I was very fortunate to have the support of Ryan, who did a lot of the writing, who came up with a lot of ideas for the scenarios, put a lot of work into the expansion. And yeah, I'm glad that it brought you joy and that you were delighted by the surprises in the game. We tried to put a bunch of big memorable moments in the campaign by not making it too long. I think sometimes if a campaign drags on too long, you kind of muddles the waters of those big memorable moments. And that's why we made it only an 8-game campaign and tried to have 8 big memorable moments in it. I don't know if we pulled that off, but we tried. My video this past weekend, looking down at my notes here, was about games that play well, medium weight games that play well at 5 or more players, or games that at least scale up to 5 or more players really well. That was a fun video to make. I kind of made a little bit of a mistake in it because Orleans is a game that I thought played up to 5, and I think there is a version of it that plays up to 5, but there's also a version of it that doesn't play up to 5, and that was my number 1 game on the list. So I probably should have looked into that a little bit more. In my mind, it's a 5-player game. But I guess it's only one of the versions that does that. And I realized that because this past weekend, we pulled out Orleans to play at a game day and realized it didn't play up to 5. We had 5 players that didn't play up to 5. We ended up playing Last Will instead. I hadn't played Last Will in a long time. Some other games I played at the game day and recently were Nirvana, little roll and write game that I really like. I tried Soulforge Fusion for the first time, and I played 2 games of it back to back. Really enjoyed that. I taught Bullet. I played Blazon. I have a video coming about that soon. I played Power Plants, and I played Schadenfreude. And today I'm actually playing Etowah, the new game from Uwe Rosenberg about bats and bat poop. I'm looking forward to playing that. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's Atiwa, and I think it's pronounced Etowah. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to giving that a play. What have you all been playing recently? What have you been getting to the table this week? Whether it's a one-off play or a campaign game, let me know either way. If you're in the middle of a game session, or if you have some one-off games that you've been enjoying recently. Alan says, how's the digital version of Tapestry going? I love the game, but it's difficult to get to the table because of the schedules with my game group. So Alan, that's a good question. There is the board game arena version, which is still available to play at any time, and then the full AI digital version. The latest news that I heard from the developer is that they have hired some other developers, or they're in the hiring process for some other developers, And so I think the game is a ways off. I think they have a lot of work to do, but it sounds like they are still making forward progress on it, which is encouraging to me. Alan's joining us from Costa Rica, he specifies. Okay, okay. Some people have clarified that Tuscany, the new full AI version of Tuscany for Digidice's Viticulture, is not only on Steam, but it's also on Android and iOS. So it's on all three platforms out of the gate, which is fantastic. That's great news. Thank you for clarifying that. A few people clarified that. Kevin specified, thank you, Kevin, for clarifying that Children of Memory is the book that I'm reading right now. I think Children of Earth maybe was the first one, then Children of Time. I might be reversing those two. And then Children of Memory is the third book in that series that I'm reading right now. Corey says he's been on a Nathan Fillion kick. Fillion? So he watched all 8 seasons of Castle, and he's catching up on The Rookie. He's about to watch Firefly for the third time. I know Megan is a big fan of Nathan Fillion, especially in Firefly. And yeah, so she's happy to hear that. And she's a fan of Castle. Have you watched The Rookie? She hasn't watched The Rookie. Let Megan know if you recommend The Rookie, if she should check that out. Tim's in the process of organizing games into his new Calyx system with 40 total cubes. That's a big system, Tim. I think I have the 4x4 Calyx over here right off camera that has 16 cubes, 40 cubes. That is quite a bit. Do you have a big game room for all that? Kevin says he's considering watching The Last of Us. Thoughts on it so far? We're really enjoying it. We've watched 4 episodes? I think 4 episodes so far. And yeah, it's really good. It's a really good show. It definitely has, I don't know if it influenced, the video game came out a while ago, so I know it's based on the video game. I haven't played the video game, but I can see elements of other post-apocalyptic shows in the show for sure. The whole, the idea that humankind is just as dangerous as something that's far creepier than humankind that can end the world, and how humans act with each other after the end of the world can be pretty scary in itself. Has those themes. But it's also very much its own thing. I'm being very vague here because I don't want to give anything away, but I really like how there are episodes that focus on characters who are not the main characters. You get to learn about other people in this world and how they've chosen to survive and how they are surviving and how they are connected to the main characters going on a journey. It can be pretty intense at times. There's a little bit of scariness to it, but I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a really, really well done show. Carol says, which is my favorite new civilization and why? So the one that I actually picked for the discussion yesterday was the Celestials. I think the Celestials are just really cool because they have this kind of floating capital city, which is represented in the game by you can move your capital city on the map around. You can move that around, not the capital city mat, but on the map, you can move your capital city around. And when you do, you get to roll both conquer dice. You're not actually conquering, but you get to roll those dice and get the benefits. And at the end of the game, there's a puzzle to it in that you don't want landmarks hanging off the side of your capital city, which is allowed in Tapestry, but in this Civ, you don't want that because you're floating around on this little island. You don't want things hanging off the edge of it. But for every landmark that doesn't hang off the side, you get 5 victory points. So you can go after kind of a landmark-heavy strategy there, which I enjoy. I love the landmark miniatures in Tapestry and try to just make sure they fit well into your grid. Carmen says she's joining us from Australia and should be sleeping. It's pretty late in Australia right now, Carmen, but I appreciate you popping in to say hi for sure. Oh, I know. Ronak, can you ask your question again? I think Facebook scrolled past it. Tony says, when the orders for Tapestry open, will people be able to add additional items to their order? Yes, definitely. Yeah, you could add anything you want to your order because when we open the pre-orders for the Tapestry expansion, it will be in stock, so you can order anything that you want with it. The one caveat a little bit is if you add expeditions to your order, then the order won't ship until Expedition ships, which isn't until July. And so we'll try to make that very clear, but I'll say it here, that if you want those two things, I'd recommend ordering them separately, unless you're totally fine waiting on the expansion until Expeditions is ready. Joe says, thanks for, hi from North Carolina, thanks for the updates. Looking forward to trying Expeditions. We played Wingspan Asia, and it's just a perfect iteration for two players. He's really enjoying it. Thank you for saying that. I love what Elizabeth did with the duet map in the Wingspan Asia duet mode. Nathan says, what do you think of the new number one on Board Game Geek and new number two as well, actually? Gloomhaven slipped down to number three, and Brass Birmingham moved up to number one, and Pandemic Legacy Season 1 is at number two right now. I'm happy for Gavin at Roxley Studios. Gavin's a publisher friend of mine, and Brass was his favorite game, so he put a ton of love into creating Brass Birmingham with Martin Wallace, and he also did all the graphic design for it, and then his company published it. I'm just happy for Gavin. I think that's really, really wonderful news for Gavin. I would say I can't imagine what it feels like to be in that position, but to put so much time and love into a game and see that it brings joy to so many people, as reflected by the rankings, I think that's wonderful. Steve says he wore his 10th anniversary shirt, the Stonemaier shirt, to game night last night. And someone asked if there's a reason it doesn't have a year on it anyplace, so you can't tell what anniversary it is. Is there a reason? Is it a misprint of sorts? I wouldn't say it's a misprint because it is printed just as we asked. I guess it is kind of odd that we don't have a year on it. I'd say that's kind of odd. I would say, it wasn't. It isn't missing from the printing of the shirt. Like, we didn't intend to put it on there, but probably would have made sense to put the year on the shirt. Skylar says, we played Power Plants for the first time and enjoyed it. Yeah, the really nice big chunky tiles in Power Plants. And it has a really cool mechanism when you choose if you want to activate the tile that you placed or all the tiles that it's touching. Kevin played Rolling Heights for the first time. Carmen's been playing Dune Imperium with both expansions. I still haven't played the second expansion for Dune Imperium. Need to give that a try. Carmen, have you tried playing it with the second expansion, but without the first expansion? I'm wondering if that works well with the core game. I'm sure it's designed for you to be able to do that, but I'm curious if it actually works well. Chad played a four-player game of Cascadia. I love that it's a game that you can chat with your friends as you play. I wonder if that could be a good top 10. That's an interesting top 10 topic. Games that either facilitate conversation or aren't so, don't provide so much mental overload that you can't chat with your friends while you're playing. It's good. Yeah, I'll think about that one. Carol says that her friend turned 10 on Monday. She has a tradition to take her kids out to lunch on their birthdays and then go to a game store to play games and then pick one out. That's fun. He picked out 8-Bit Box and had a blast. Not Carol's favorite, but happy that her son loved it. And she said just finished up Coffee Roasters on her snow day. I've heard great things about Coffee Roasters. I had it available to play a while ago and didn't end up playing it. And now I regret it, so I need to try that one. I'll come back to comments in a second. Let me go over to my notes real quick. Some other Stonemaier stuff that's happening behind the scenes. Working on, there was a game that was submitted to us that we had a playtest of the other day, and also looking through playtest results for a game that we already know that we're publishing, that we've been actively developing for quite some time now. Those results were very, very encouraging. That's actually it for my notes. I'll focus on your comments and questions for the rest of the livecast. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about Tapestry's Fantasies and Futures or Expeditions, the two products that we're putting the spotlight on right now. Par says the latest game in their collection is Clank, including the expansions Sunken Treasure and Gold and Silk. Really like Clank, but only played it 2-player and solo so far. Like to try it. He'd like to try it with 3 and 4 players. I find Clank is one that Clank scales up and down pretty well, in my opinion. I haven't played it solo, but I have enjoyed it too. Kevin says the order of the books that I've been talking about are Children of Time, Children of Ruin, and Children of Memory. I must be confusing it with Adrian's other series, which is Architects of Earth. I believe that's the right phrase of it. Earth is in one of his titles, but thank you, Kevin, for clarifying that. He says he's read the first 2. What are your thoughts so far on the final one of the trilogy? It's actually good to know that it's a trilogy because I think the series, I'm really enjoying the series, but I think I needed to have an arc, a narrative arc that closes out, and I'm not seeing that yet. I'm kind of waiting for that in the 3rd book, but there are some really neat concepts, as usual, in Adrian's books introduced in the 3rd book, and I am enjoying it. It's a little more abstract than the other ones. Like, it's a little more difficult to follow what's happening. But it's starting to come together at like 70%. I'm around 70% through right now. I would definitely recommend it, though. If you enjoyed the first two books, I would definitely recommend trying the third book and closing out the trilogy. Julie says that her husband gave her Obsession, Pride, Intrigue, and Prejudice in Victorian England, an awesome gift for me as a board gamer and an English teacher. The game has a nice blend of mechanisms and integrates social conventions of the era well into the rules. We enjoyed our first play the other day. I've also been playing Castle Panic with her almost 6-year-old. Yeah, Megan, I enjoy Obsession. Megan really enjoys Obsession. I haven't played it in a while because it tends to play has a fairly long playing time and maybe outstays my patience a little bit, even the short game of Obsession. But I love being in the same room with people who are playing Obsession because of the way they talk about the game as they're playing it. Dwayne says he tried to tackle scenario 3 of Jaws of the Lion this week. Was hard to keep going because of his cats. Your cats were getting in the way of the lion that you're playing. I definitely enjoyed and really admired the tutorial system through the first 5 games of Jaws of the Lion, Gloomhaven Jaws of the Lion. I thought that was really impressive. If you're any designer who's looking for a good tutorial, there are a few games that I'd suggest, and that game would definitely be on that list. And Jonathan does recommend the Rookie and would highly recommend it. Jesse taught his friends of his nephews some games last night, a few that he's designed. That's pretty cool, Jesse. Nothing self-published yet, but they all had a great time at our pizza shop. That's cool. That's awesome. Congratulations on getting people to playtest the game. That's always a challenge. It can always be a little exhausting, I think, for a designer to playtest a game with other people. There's a lot to track, a lot of information to track and remember when you're doing that. But yeah, I'm glad you had a good experience with that. Chris says he hasn't played any games recently. He's still working on his 3D prints for an organizer for Islebound, which he did ask about last week. Then he's working on a 3D printed organizer for The Ancient World. You're going on a Ryan Lockett kick right now. I actually have Rome. I recently bought his game Rome, R-O-A-M, not R-O-M-E, from Red Raven Games recently after a recommendation from my coworker Susanna, and I'm looking to get that to the table soon. I'm hoping to play it with Susanna because she recommended it so highly, but yeah, I'm just excited to play that Ryan Lockett game. And I'm super excited about the sequel to Sleeping Gods. I just showed something that you can't see over here, but Sleeping Gods is still on my shelf over here, but the sequel is the one that I'm really, really looking forward to playing. Corey says that The Rookie is on Hulu and it's better than Castle, and he's saying that as someone who really enjoyed Castle, despite the rushed series finale. Megan's always looking for a good series to watch, so I'll try to see if she'll give The Rookie a try. Carmen says that she also played 2 games of Rajas the Ganges. Love that game. Love that mechanism of the tracks, the scoring tracks crossing over with each other. We see that in Arc Nova as well. Shannon says she has Woodcraft on the table right now. She's working on learning it. Then we've been playing games on Board Game Arena in the meantime, so I don't have to clean it up until it gets played. I'm actually playing games on Board Game Arena with my virtual game night group today. So let me know if you have any. I know many of the games on the Board Game Arena, but if anyone has any games that they're really enjoying on Board Game Arena right now, let me know in the comments here, and maybe I'll check it out tonight. Darius says the team that made Bogchal, the Pay What You Want campaign that I talked about on my blog, or they talked about it on my blog, started a new campaign about a city, Kathmandu, destroyed by an earthquake. As a follower from Turkey, I thought the game could be helpful to handle the situation in a positive way for kids. What do you think about the healing process of board games? That's a great question, Daria. The healing process of board games. I think it's tough to pull off, but I think if it's executed well in a game, that can be pretty impactful. Can you think of any other games that have given you that feeling of healing or maybe processing something that you're thinking about in real life? The game that always comes to mind when I think about those types of things is Fog of Love. I don't know if Fog of Love is necessarily about healing, but it is a game that makes me think about relationships and processing and how I process relationships, though. Kevin says the last few days we played Marvel Remix, which I still need to try. Cartographers, Arboretum, Trekking the National Parks, Bloom, Carcassonne, and Archaeology, The New Expedition. Lots of great games there, Kevin. Yeah, Archaeology has such clever set collection in it. Robin says, have I tried Frostpunk yet? I have not tried Frostpunk, so I don't have any thoughts on it yet, but I am very curious to try it. What are your thoughts on it? Have you given it a try? Joe says that he's enjoyed Sea Salt and Paper, a very clever little game. You know, a lot of people have recommended that, and that is on Board Game Arena. And so maybe we'll give that a try tonight if someone that I'm playing with knows how to play. I don't know if I have time to learn it tonight, but I've heard a lot of good things. I appreciate that recommendation, Joe. Carol says that I have to try Immortality for Dune, the new expansion for Dune Imperium. I think I might like it better, and I think it would be great without Ix. There's such a cool grafting system with the cards to play 2 cards when you place your workers. That does sound really, really cool. I need to try the expansion. Malcolm Chris says, if I had played Twilight Imperium. You know, Twilight Imperium was on a list of games that I wanted to try once, and so I have tried it once. It's definitely a lot longer than games that I usually play. I think our game took around 5 to 6 hours, but I'm glad I played it once. It was quite a big table hogging experience, and there's a lot of game in that game. So yeah, I've played it once. That's probably good for me, but I'm open to play it again someday. Melissa's been playing Encyclopedia. Marlene says, what's your inspiration behind Euphoria? So the title Euphoria, Marlene, or the game? I'll since we're talking about names, I'll answer that as if you're asking about the name of the game. So originally Euphoria was called Dystopia. I thought Dystopia was a really strong name for the game, just Dystopia. And I still think it's a decent title for a game, but Alan, my co-founder, he thought that it sounded a little grim, and so he thought of the name Euphoria. Yeah, as like kind of which I think was the name of one of the factions in the game. So, or it is one of the names of the factions. I think at the time it was also one of the factions. He was like, I think Euphoria is a stronger word. And I was like, that's cool. And then one of us, I can't remember who thought of it, thought of the subtitle, Build a Better Dystopia. I really love the subtitle. Whether I thought of it or Alan thought of it, I thought that paired well with the word Euphoria. So yeah, I remember having this conversation at Gen Con in, was it at Gen, could it have been at Gen Con? I don't know if we went to Gen Con that first year. I feel like we had this conversation at Gen Con, or maybe we had an interview with someone at Gen Con, and that's what I'm thinking of. Anyway, Chad says, how open was Jakob to starting a new 1920 plus game? I know he's really busy with Iron Harvest. Back in early 2020, he seemed he was busy for sure, but he was very interested, I think, in revisiting the world and doing something else in the world. He just didn't want to, like me, he didn't want to rehash Scythe. He didn't want to do Scythe 2. He wanted to have a new adventure in the 1920 plus world, and that's what we ended up doing with Expeditions. Shannon says that Clank Catacombs is wonderful. Her husband doesn't want to play any of the Clank games with the regular board again. I hope they have some expansions coming. That's really interesting to hear, Shannon. I've enjoyed it. But I found that I have missed, I've missed being able to see all the paths up front. That's one of the things that I think I didn't realize quite how much how I enjoyed that about the original Clank, that you can see that path and say, okay, this is the path that I want to take this game. And sometimes while taking that path, depending on the cards that you draw, you might change it, but at least you can see it along the way. At the same time, I like the variability of Clank Catacombs, using tiles for that purpose. So I can see both versions, but I think I'm going to end up gravitating back to Clank more often, is my hunch. But we'll see if that's true. I haven't played normal Clank since playing Clank Catacombs, so maybe that's a sign of things as well. Victoria said that her friends and her learned Ark Nova this weekend. One of my favorite games, Ark Nova. I hope you had a good time with it. It can be, it's a big first play. There's a lot going on in the first play, but I definitely remember when I played it the first time, I wanted to play it again as soon as possible because I was thinking about all the different things that I could do and all the different cards that I hadn't seen yet. John says, any rule changes or additional rules for the Tapestry expansion? You know, it's a very streamlined expansion. It's a more stuff expansion, more civs, more capital cities, more Tapestry cards, more tech cards. There are a few little new things on the Tapestry cards. For example, on some Tapestry cards, like this one, there's a charm. And so what this means, this charm is on the left side of the card. So this means that when you play this card, if there's another Tapestry card to the left of it, you get this charm benefit in addition to the benefit on the card. And the same goes for the other side. If a card like this is the Ghost Ship card, there's charms on both sides here. So with this card, when I play a card on the right side of the card, that's when I activate the charm bonus. So that doesn't happen when I play the card. It happens when I play a card to the right of it. There are also some interactions in the game with the 5th income turn. So there are certain cards that have you, I'll find an example here. that have you save something for the fifth income turn, giving you a more powerful fifth income turn. So, for example, the Great Library of Potions here. So this says, when played, place your next yellow building, your yellow income building, at the right edge of your income map, include this building when scoring markets. That's what the yellow building is called. And then in the fifth income turn, place this building that you set aside into your capital city. So you get a powerful benefit, but it's a little bit of a delayed benefit that makes that fifth income turn feel more powerful. I'm explaining this because these are basically the only new rules in the new Tapestry expansion. It's mostly just you have all this new stuff, shuffle it in, and play along with it right now. Pregame says, when you said a game was submitted to you, do you mean it's outside Stonemaier Games? Are you accepting design submissions from the public? Would you love to hear your thoughts about the topic? Yeah, I have a couple different blog posts about this topic. If you're interested, so yes, at Stonemaier Games, we publish some games that are designed by me, but we also publish a bunch of games that are designed by other people. And many of those come from, or some of them come from our submission process. So check out on our website, there's a big submission page that talks about the guidelines for the types of games that we're looking for, and how to submit them to us if you have a game that you think is a really, really great fit for Stonemaier Games. It's on our website under About and then Submissions and Pitches. Tom says, when he last looked, the Ironclad had many more pre-orders than the base Expeditions. Does that surprise you? Not really, no. Yes, so far, Tom, for Expeditions, the Ironclad edition has outsold the standard version by about 3-1. In the long run, I think we'll easily sell way more copies of the standard edition because those will be the main edition available through retailers. But for early adopters, yeah, I was kind of thinking that the Ironclad edition would be much more popular. Yeah. Carol says that Rome is a fun little game. That game, Rome from Red Raven Games. William says, why don't some publishers accept submissions? And when does Stonemaier Games typically stop accepting submissions? So why don't some publishers accept submissions? That's a good question. I mean, sometimes publishers have an in-house designer or they have preferred designers that they just prefer to work with, and they're not looking for outside submissions or to add that submission process to their workload because it is work. I mean, it's quite a bit of work. Alan handles it for us, but when Alan reviews hundreds of submissions every month or every couple months, so it's a job that you're adding to your job if you want to do that, opposed to not doing that, just having an in-house designer or only publishing your own work, or whenever you have a game that you want someone to design, that you could go out, you could reach out to designers and say, hey, here's a game that we want. Are you interested in designing this game? So I can see that. Your other question, when do we typically stop accepting submissions? For a while now, we've just left the submission process open. Currently, we're kind of booked for the next 3 years, I would say, in terms of games that we're going to publish, but we're always looking ahead, and the game development process takes time. So we're always looking ahead into the future. And for that reason, we've just left it open for anyone who thinks that they have a game, a really special game that is also a fit for the types of games that we are publishing. So yeah, we just leave it open there. We don't plan on closing it. I think there was a brief time at one point that we closed it because we had planned so far in the future and didn't feel it was respectful to designers to continue to accept submissions. But and while that's still kind of the case now, we try to be upfront about that. Yeah. A couple of people are complimenting Rome. Carol says that Anachrony is on beta on Board Game Arena. If you're up for that, it works well. I haven't played Anachrony in a long time, and maybe I remember there being a little bit of upkeep in the game that bogged it down a little bit for me, even though I love some of the core mechanisms. So maybe Board Game Arena would be a great time to revisit that. Thanks for that recommendation. And George says, of course, there's Tapestry on Board Game Arena. Jonathan also comments on Anachrony. Robin says, so Robin was the one that asked if I had played Frostpunk yet. Robin says, I think the production value of Frostpunk is great and it's massive on the table. It's also a lot of fun to play. Highly recommend. That's great to hear. Yeah, I might try to get that to the table at Geekway to the West in a few months, a convention here in St. Louis. Carol is talking about, so the idea of games that can help you process things that you're going through, help you heal. She says, I taught my son Pandemic the Cure, the dice version of the game at the beginning of the pandemic to help explain what was going on and to use different terminology, and it helped and it worked well. That's great. Yeah, I wonder if pandemic hit the table a number of times for that reason, with people trying to process the pandemic or to feel like you had a little bit of control, especially at the beginning when we knew so little about it. Nathan also recommends Anachrony. A lot of people. Oh, and Earth just hit beta. Yeah, so Earth, that's another publisher friend, Connor, over at Inside Up Games. I was so happy for Connor to hear the Dice Tower, how much the Dice Tower loved Earth. And their review inspired me to go and order Earth from Inside Up Games right after I watched that review, because I was like, this sounds awesome. I got to give this a try. So I think I'll wait to play it on the table. I don't want to play that on Board Game Arena. Yeah, I'll wait for the tabletop version of that. Okay, so Marlene says she was curious about the inspiration behind the game Euphoria. So Euphoria is the game that I designed after Viticulture. And one of the questions that I kind of asked myself in Viticulture was, why are these workers always just doing what I asked them to do? And that's the case for most worker placement games. You tell a worker to go to a space and they do it. They take that action for you. And so I was wondering, okay, would I ever want to design a game where the workers don't necessarily do what I want to do? And I was like, well, that could be a little frustrating. I don't know if I'll explore that. Maybe I'll explore that someday. But instead I thought, what is the theme of a game that makes sense that the workers never question what you ask them to do? That's built into the theme of the game. And I thought, dystopias. In dystopias, you have this kind of ignorance is bliss idea in dystopias where the workers in the dystopian societies just kind of go about their business. They don't question the overall structure of society. They just do what their managers and their bosses ask them to do. And so I decided to explore that theme, and it just so happens that I also love dystopian fiction in any form: TV, movies, books, and board games as well. So I wanted to explore that theme, and so yeah, those were the origins of dystopia, of Euphoria, and it also started out with it has dice as workers, and originally you used dice to track worker knowledge. So if you moved as you told workers to do more things, they would gain more knowledge about this dystopian society that they're living in, and you would increase the pips on the dice. I moved away from that though, and the pips still represent knowledge, but I moved away from it because it was pretty tedious to constantly update the dice, and it's a lot more fun, I think, to roll dice in games than use them as a counter to track things. So that changed over time during the design process. Melissa says there's a new superpower show on Hulu called Extraordinary. It's a Brit comedy. I really loved it, and I can't wait for season 2. Melissa, we actually just watched Extraordinary, I think 2 weeks ago. We burned through the first season and really enjoyed it. You're right. It's really funny. It's about a world where everyone has superpowers except for the main character, who somehow ended up not activating her superpowers at 18 years old, and now I think she's like 23 or 25, still hasn't activated them, and is figuring out what that means for her, and if she actually does have a power that she just hasn't figured out yet. And it's a half-hour comedy, even though it does have that theme on it. Kevin says, are there plans to have a gameplay video for Expeditions? I already pre-ordered it, and I'm very excited for it. So Kevin, there is one gameplay video. It's a short gameplay video where I just show 4 turns of the game. That's on YouTube right now. You can go check that out. There will be full gameplay videos of the game coming from content creators who really specialize in that in the future. And I also bought a new kind of camera rig for my phone, and I might try to do, probably not still a full live play. I don't know if I'm really set up to do that, but I have this camera that I can suspend over a table and have the full game set up on the table instead of partial part of the game set up, which was on the what I can do on my desktop here. So I'm planning to do something more like that, but there will be more robust, professional-looking live plays coming in May and June. Shannon is circling back to Clank Catacombs. We liked it better because it felt more like a true dungeon crawl, meaning that you don't see what's coming. For my husband, who was an avid D&D player, he liked this aspect of the design. I can totally see that. Yeah, that you don't know what's coming next, and I can see that feeling more like a true dungeon crawl. Yeah. Chad says, have you managed to play Star Wars Outer Rim yet? And I still haven't managed to play it. No, I haven't. I do have a friend who owns it, and so I'll have to take that plunge with my friend in the near future. In fact, I might bring it up. I'm going to see him today for the game of Etowah, so I'll mention it to him. And he says, have you done a video for pick up and deliver games? I couldn't find one on YouTube. I don't think I have. It's a genre that I don't get very excited about, but there are exceptions to that. Yeah, I'll have to, maybe that playing Star Wars Outer maybe that will inspire me to make such a video. Tony says, any Kickstarters or crowdfunding projects in general that I'm waiting to deliver? He says, I'm looking forward to Moonrakers and Moonrakers expansions and Canvas expansions to arrive. I have many Kickstarters that I'm waiting for right now. Let me see a few of them right here. So I'm waiting for Earthborn Rangers. I'm waiting for the Seventh Citadel, Mythwind, Star Realms: Rise of the Empire, Sleeping Gods: Distant Skies, Steam Up, Race to the Raft, Chicken, the Role Player Adventures expansion, Elevensies, Sagrada Artisans, The Fox Experiment, Robomon. Waiting for First in Flight, Library Labyrinth, Ra. Ra is coming pretty soon. Bark Avenue, Trailblazer, Tidal Blades 2, Soul Raiders, hopefully that'll come this year. Tranquility, The Ascent, Heck and Hounds, Darwin's Journey, The Age of Atlantis. Is that it? Yeah, those are, I'm looking at my list of games that I've saved. Yeah, those are the ones that I put on my list of games that I'm anticipating for 2023 that I think are coming from crowdfunding sometime this year. Chris says, I shared your library support program page, which is on our website, with my public library, and they were very thankful for that information. Do you know of other publishers that also have a similar program I could share with my library? I don't know offhand, but I think that post, or a post linked on that page, links to a Facebook group for librarians. I don't know if I can look it up right now. Let's see. I'll probably lose the livecast if I look it up by accident. But I think there is a gaming library Facebook group that might have a cohesive list that answers that question, Chris. I don't have one offhand though. Carmen says that she's going to congratulate Martin Wallace at their Brisbane Board Game Club this weekend for the Brass Birmingham reaching #1. Dan says, any plans to add more of the civs from the expansions to Board Game Arena? Dan, that is the exact plan, actually. Yeah, we're probably not going to add like all of the expansion stuff to Board Game Arena, but I do want to add the civilizations. It's just up to the developers on Board Game Arena when they decide they want to do it. Jesse says, one more thing. These 3 games that he's designed are just 3 out of the 34 games that he's designed in 24 years. That's a lot of games. I'm proud of these games, seeing the playtesters smile and laugh and making them think outside the box, as it were. That's great, Jesse. Congratulations. And yeah, that's an incredible accomplishment to design that many games. The design process is not easy. You know, it's not just having an idea. It's carrying through on that idea to that first prototype and then iterating to make it that second prototype and playtesting locally and blind playtesting and going through all these different iterations of the game. Expeditions took me 3 years to design. And yeah, it's a big process to go through. Daria was the person who mentioned games being able to help you process or heal. And he says, I mean, healing might be in 2 ways. For instance, Wingspan is a healing game for me. Not for something specific, but it gives me peace of mind. Yeah, I've heard some creators talk about this in terms of like comforting games that kind of just feel cozy and comforting. And I think Wingspan is one of those games. He says, especially with the Steam version with a background sound. Yeah, they have great music on the Steam version. Monique ordered the Wingspan expansion as a birthday present to herself. Happy birthday, Monique. Can't wait to play it. Wingspan is likely my favorite board game ever. That's wonderful. I'll have to share that with Elizabeth. That's very kind of you to say. Joshua says, Expeditions has a bit of pick up deliver with the quest cards. A little bit. I mean, I'd call it just more of a mission system, a mission and quest system where you are going to certain places rather than like a pick up deliver game is one where you're, and maybe this is a little limiting, but I think in general it means that you are picking up resources from one location and then delivering and dropping off those resources on another location. Whereas in Expeditions, you are gaining a quest, using that quest card as you wish on an ongoing basis until you decide to go to the location to complete the quest. So I think that's more in like mission quest fulfillment than it is pick up and deliver, even though it is location specific. But I like location specific quests in games, like in Yedo. Yedo has great missions that are location specific. Marlene says, thanks for the backstory on Euphoria. I love hearing things like that. It makes the experience richer. We picked it up a few months ago, and out of our several plays, have never ended more than a turn or half a turn apart from the loser winning. Yeah, it ends up being a very close game usually, especially 2 players. Really close scoring. In other words, there's a lot of excitement. I'm glad that you two are enjoying it, Marlene. That's Euphoria that we're talking about. Carol says, did you make a decision to back Andromeda's Edge? All the different factions are looking really neat. It really, yeah, it's an impressive looking game, impressive looking production. I think a friend of mine is getting it though, so I'll probably just play my friend's version. Chad says, I feel like I hyped Outer Rim, Star Wars Outer Rim way too much. It's never going to live up. Every time I play it, the stories feel like a mini campaign game. And that sounds awesome to me. And I love Star Wars. I mean, I played, I love Lord of the Rings too. And part of my love for it made me really enjoy the War of the Ring card game that I played about a few weeks ago. And I could definitely see that same thing happening for any Star Wars game that I play. So I need to play it. David says, Rado runs through, swears that you made expeditions with his wife and him in mind. I don't know if that's true. I mean, honestly, I made Scythe with Rado in mind, and that was a good reminder to me that I should not keep reviewers in mind when I design a game, because Rado didn't review Scythe. He was worried about the combat, even though Scythe is much more about, it isn't about destroying things, and it's more about the threat of combat than actual combat. But because of the presence of combat in the game, he didn't even end up reviewing it. And so I kind of have tried to not think about reviewers, especially not specific reviewers, when designing games after that experience. Yeah, it was kind of a dumb novice thing for me to do. But I'm glad he's excited about it. I'm definitely happy to send him a copy when I have review copies. David says, how did you initially decide what direction to go with the game in terms of mechanisms? Did players' opinion of Scythe have anything to do with it? You've kind of answered the question here a little bit, David, because as I was laying the groundwork for expeditions, other than building from the theme that Jakob gave to me, the story, the sense of adventure, sense of exploration, I also definitely looked at the things that people love the most about Scythe, and I wanted to capture not necessarily those exact things, but the feeling of those things in expeditions. And I talked about that in a recent video. If you check out my video about comparing Scythe to expeditions, I talk about the 10 things that I think made Scythe so special in the eyes of the players and my own eyes, and how I pulled those things over into expeditions, but made them mechanically fresh and new. That was a fun challenge, but that was how I kind of laid the groundwork for the game. It still took me many tries. I designed expeditions from the ground up probably around a dozen times as I tried to get that right. And I'm really happy with the final version, but it took a long time to figure out how I could get the game to play really well and feel innovative and fresh and new. Yeah, it was a tough challenge. Chad says, it sounds like the game Earth is making some big waves. Have I played it yet? I haven't played it yet, no, but I did buy it. I pre-ordered it after I watched the Dice Tower review the other day. Kevin says, thank you for doing these weekly chats. I enjoy hearing your insights. Thank you, Kevin. And he's taken off. I'll be taking off in a few minutes to grab lunch myself. Christopher said, did the pre-orders for expeditions exceed your expectations? You know, I honestly didn't know what to expect, because we normally don't do pre-orders before we have the product in stock. And so, I think I'll have a better answer for that, Christopher, once we've actually launched the product, because I'm very curious to see how many people are waiting until we have reviews of the game, and how many people are waiting for that launch when they can just order it and get it within a few weeks, as people are used to doing through our normal order system. So I guess that aside, I am really happy that nearly 7,000 people now have ordered expeditions in advance, and hopefully we order the right number for everybody else. That's the guessing game that'll have tomorrow morning, actually. Let's see. Julie says that she agrees that Wingspan is a comforting game. We found that to be true in 2020 in particular, and it's a game that we continue to play a couple times a week, especially if one of us has had a rough day. And that definitely resonates with me as well. Yeah. Okay, a few more questions that I'll end up with really quick here before I take off. Andrew says, for Scythe, what is the English reading order? Is it point of view of the automa, or is it your point of view looking at the automa? Because if I'm using two automas and one is on the side of the challenge. That's an interesting question, Andrew. Point of view, or your point of view looking at the automa. I think it's your point of view looking at the automa, but Andrew, I should clarify, I am the multiplayer designer for Scythe. I'm not the automa designer. So if you might want to post that in the Scythe Facebook group to see what people say about that from the automa perspective specifically. And his other question for Wingspan, score pad for six or seven players using Nectar. I I think you're asking for the score pad that we included for 6 or 7 players in Wingspan Asia, why doesn't it include Nectar? And that is because Nectar isn't in Wingspan Asia. We didn't want to confuse people into thinking that they were missing something if they were playing it. However, we do have some printable score pads for 6 or 7 players that do include Nectar on our website. So you can print them from I think they're on the Wingspan Asia page of our website. Malcolm Chris has a question specifically about the Illuminati. I might skip that question for now, Malcolm, but the Illuminati does come up in my designer chat that I'm posting this Sunday, that video on Sunday. And perfect. Yeah, I think we just wrapped up right there, a little after 11. But thank you all for joining me today for this chat. I loved it. Love hearing from you. I love your questions. And I'll be back with another Design Diary post in the Tapestry Facebook group and our website and Board Game Geek tomorrow morning. Hopefully I'll see you then. Otherwise, I'll see you next Wednesday for March 1st. March 1st. That's our big launch day for Tapestry Fantasies and Futures. I'll see you then. Take care. Bye.